lastly, but not least, I want to welcome you to Craig Turton from Emperor. He's representing Emperor Asset Management tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to actually hand the mic to Craig, who's going to just share a little bit about what Emperor is about, why they got involved in the Otter, and how they are involved with Alpes Fit as well, and just a little bit of background.
There we go. Landie, can you hear me?
Craig, hello, Craig.
Cool. Landie, can you hear me?
Yes, can you?
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for the intro.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really an honor and a privilege to be speaking tonight. I'm properly surrounded by celebrities, so thank you very much to you and Christiaan for hosting us. And yeah, so far it's been like really a dream come true, partnering with the Otter. A few of us at Emperor did it for the first time last year, and we absolutely fell in love with it. And we thought, a race like this, shouldn't do without a title sponsor. And a few discussions with the Otter team and Mark and John and Belen, they just feeling their passion for trail running, for the whole Otter experience, for conservation in the area and an upliftment in the area. It just really spoke to our values that we also live day to day in our business. I mean, the Otter, I think the 500 entries sold out in 3 days, so it just goes to show how popular the race is. A bit of background to Emperor very quickly. So we are an asset management business, so we look after clients' money. We're part of the Purple Group, and Easy Equities also falls within our group. And the really lacquer news, the last couple of days, from our side was, that crazy news that, government wasn't going to, or SASCOP wasn't going to give Tatiana and Bianca, medal bonuses. And we in our business just thought that was absolutely crazy. And, we jumped on and managed to get some crowdfunding. And I'm super excited to just let everyone tonight know that at this stage, after 2 days, we've raised 350,000 rand, for the two of them. And I mean, that's after 2 days. So, us being athletes here, I think that's a pretty kind of heartwarming story, which is we're very proud of. So. We also obviously partnered with you guys, Landie and Christiaan, and your Alpes Fit team, which has been amazing. There's we've probably got about 12, runners, at Emperor, which is going to be doing the race. And we've just loved, your guys' professionalism and your experience and everything that you're going to speak about tonight. And also your patience. I think, I'm probably your slowest athlete. And you haven't given up on me yet, so thanks very much to you guys, and maybe a few little teasers. Speaking to the Faces team and the Otter team earlier, I'm not going to give too much away in terms of what's happening within the Otter, but I think the sponsorship has helped get live tracking for the elite athletes this year. We're 90% of the way there in getting that sorted. Those of us who have done the Otter before, we know how hard it is with the terrain to be able to do live tracking. So, we've managed to find a way around that. The normal sort of athletes, there's going to be devices every 5Ks to track, and it's going to be Bluetooth related. So you're not going to have to, like really push and slow down and tag it in. It's Bluetooth is going to pick it up, which is really cool. There's going to be a helicopter flying around, guys with GoPros. We're going to have more entertainment at registration. There's going to be more space at the finish line, which has been a big thing to, just to obviously with COVID protocols in place with big screens to be able to watch the athletes come in. And I'm excited for the Friday night, the braai and the potjie at the race village. I think that's going to be very, very cool. And then the big guns, all of you on here, so I think the guys have also confirmed is Ryan, Sands, Kane, Riley. We've also got Sibusiso Balani, who's South Africa's greatest adventurer, who's going to be doing the Otter this year. We've got Sean Keeling, who's a silver Olympic medalist from Rio in 2016. On the ladies' side, ladies on here, we've got Bianca. We also got Nicolette. We've got Susan Sloan and Robin Owen as well. So I think it's going to be amazing to see the women and the men in the finish line. That last sort of 10Ks is going to be epic. And then the other one is, lastly, just from my side, Landie, is just the community runs that are coming up at the end of the month. I think that's a really exciting addition, and I'm going to be in Knysna, doing that one down there with John and Mark, and look forward to seeing a lot of athletes at these community places. Yeah. So that's me. Thank you for the intro. Hope it wasn't too long.
Okay, sorry, I think I was just muted there, a little technical glitch. Yeah, I think it's safe to say, Craig, that the Otter African Trail Run presented by Emperor is really one of the most exciting trail races on the calendar. And thanks for sharing all the first-hand information with us. We feel really privileged about that. Okay, so I think we obviously don't have the whole night, so let's get cracking with those questions that you guys have sent in. And I'm going to be doing the rounds. I'm going to be asking the questions to all the participants, and they will then share their knowledge with you guys. Okay, so first up is Toni. The question that we have here is, for how many hours a week do you spend on the trail, and is power or speed the most important for Otter? Toni.
Okay, interesting question. So I think hours on the trail, I pretty much do all my training on the trail. Currently, I'm trying to incorporate a little bit more speed work, but that's not necessarily specific for Otter. I think for Otter, it really is about getting comfortable on the trail, because it is a technical route. So being able to navigate the technical trails is something that's really important for this race. In terms of power and speed, I would say work on your power over your speed. Obviously, both are important to be a strong athlete, but this race is so undulating and so deceptively tricky. I've got memories of watching people come in who just look like they're in a lot of pain from the consistent up and down, and that's really taxing on your legs. So I think if you can, work on your power more than your speed, and I would say get on the trail as much as possible if you can. Otherwise, lots of stairs.
Okay, thanks, Toni. I think that definitely answers that question. On to Christiaan. Christiaan, your question is, doing my first Otter, for an average runner who doesn't fly over technical terrain, what is the terrain like in terms of runnable, smooth versus technical? Also, which is the easier half of the race? And remember, we're talking Otter this year, so it's being run from Storms River to Nature's Valley.
Evening, guys. It's a privilege to be on the show. And Otter is my favorite race because you start with all the technical stuff. And talking about technical, I would advise each one of you to go and watch the videos from previous years. It's literally rock hopping, boulder hopping, something you've never seen before. So definitely, if you live in Gauteng and you don't have those tools at hand, go and watch the videos as much as you can. It's going to help at least. So the first bit, I break the race up in 4 parts. The first 5 kilometers is a lot of technical rock hopping. The second bit is stairs, up and down. And in the middle part, you kind of get in a flow just before you get to Blowkrans. That's a river crossing, which everyone fears. And then after Blowkrans, it's a short bit of technical, but the last 8Ks is actually the only runnable part of the Otter Trail. I would say 70% is technical, very technical, and only 30% is very runnable. So when you think of training, you can use this advice as well to train all your long runs on similar terrain. Try and get as much stairs and technical terrain, rocks as you can.
Okay, cool. Okay, so next up is Sunét, and the question we had for Sunét was, what tips do you have for someone who has never run the Otter?
Yes, so it wasn't only like my first Otter, it was my first trail run ever. So I suppose a lot of what I'm going to say is like logic to most people, but guys, people lie on socks. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, if it goes dry, tech, fiber, they're lying. That stuff doesn't dry. If you literally wait from the beginning to the end. So I didn't quite understand what Landie meant when she said simulation training. It means wet your socks and under the tap and go run with it. Otherwise, like, you get like almost like grandma toes, you know, when you're in the tub for too long, that skin will come off with your socks. So that's how I screwed up. I suppose what was cool, what actually did work is like about 2 months or so before the race, I freaked out. Because that's about the time when you go otter.co.za and go look at all those cool graphs they have. And then you start working out how many times that's up and down like Westcliff stairs, which you shouldn't do, you know. Then like promptly had a long meeting with myself, and then going like, you're either going to do this or you're not going to do this, right? But if you're going to do this, you have to realize that you're going to get tired. And if you're not Hulk or Gandhi, at around 35 kilometers or so, you're not the best version of yourself. You're really not. It gets weird, you know. So I came prepared. Like, I came prepared with, because I knew that stuff was going to happen. So I was like, there was a joke that I always laugh at. And I knew exactly what my head was going to tell me, like when you want to quit. So I had counter arguments. So I didn't really negotiate with a terrorist at that stage, like to keep your head going for that last bit. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think that definitely helps the Otter first time runners there. Sunét, thanks for sharing your bear insight. We really enjoyed that one. Okay, next up is Johardt, and the question here is, other than stair-specific training, any other advice on things to focus on in Johardt?
Thank you, Landie. Yes, I've heard a ridiculous stat the other day that the Otter's got something like 7,000 stairs, which I truly believe. It really, there's no end to it. But obviously, that is not the only thing you can train for. Christiaan also mentioned it before. This year is the classic direction. So we run from Storms River to Nature's Valley. And to be honest, I actually prefer this direction because of the flatter section of the Andréshout. Obviously, there's a lot of technical terrain and you need to negotiate a lot of rocks before Andréshout. But I think if you can get to Andréshout and you are still strong and you are able to run that section very hard, you will run well. So what I usually advise people to do is go and do a lot of stairs and do a U set. But after the U set, if you are still fresh enough, go and try and do a 50-minute tempo run on quite runnable terrain, because you need that leg strength and that ability to run on tired legs after a lot of hills in order to finish strong. So I would definitely say some more runnable tempo runs after use sets, and then obviously strength training that we will touch on a bit later on tonight.
Cool. Thanks, Johardt, for your insight there. I think that was really valuable. Okay, the next question is for myself. And the question I had was, what nutritional supplement do you recommend for energy? And given that you're a new mom, juggling children, trail running, fitness, etc. Okay, yeah, this is definitely an interesting question. I think we always get questions on nutrition, and we can talk forever about it. But I think in this day and age, and I've specifically noticed now with myself, with having even less time, with juggling the kids and just trying to sort of maintain some kind of fitness regime, I've discovered a very, very cool product. It's literally the next best thing since sliced bread. It's called Soiled Smoothies, and it's basically a ready-made smoothie that you can literally come up after your run and just throw into the NutriBullet, and you add your choice of milk, whether it's nut milk or normal milk or whatever it is, and it's got all the goodies in there. It's got your protein in there, it's got your bananas, your raw cocoa, blueberries, and it's all frozen. So you basically keep it in the freezer, and then when you get home from your long run or from your speed session or whatever recovery session you need to do, you literally just chuck it into the NutriBullet and you have your nutrition. So I think in terms of energy levels, it's got so much density in it that it actually lasts for about 3 to 4 hours. And if I don't have any more of that in stock, I just create my own smoothie, which is also just as easy. And it's basically, my favorite is just a peanut butter cocoa bomb with lots of chia seeds and some nuts in there to actually add all the potassium and the antioxidants that you need. So I think, yeah, in terms of saving time and energy, I think a smoothie, a protein smoothie, is definitely my go-to and what I would recommend. Okay, cool. I think there's a general round of questions that we're going to ask now. And that was, what is the best piece of gear that you've brought with you on the Otter? So I'm going to give each of the speakers just a chance to quickly name their best gear, Otter gear item. Okay, Christiaan, let's start with you.
Yeah, my piece of gear is definitely a condom. I know it sounds funny. Alpha one is more expensive, and if you jump into the bloke runs and you don't have proper waterproofing, the only thing that works is a condom. So it's cheap, it's free. You can get it on the way to Otter. The receipt, so it's on the end garage. Or I've been lucky enough to find it in Nature's Valley, also in the bathroom next to the start. But also on a better note, get yourself one of these. It's on Take a Lot. It's $300, and you save a lot of space and money.
Okay, thanks for that piece of advice. I don't know who's going to follow it, but yeah, I think it's a... Okay, next up, hey.
Second pair of socks, guys.
Cool. Okay, Toni.
Sure. A pair of shoes that you really trust in terms of their grip. That, yeah, to have confidence in your shoes is like a huge, I don't know, for me anyway, confidence booster when you're taking on like super technical terrain. So yeah, pair of shoes you fully back. Invest, it's worth it.
I couldn't agree more on that one, Toni. Okay, and then Johardt?
I would definitely say a good pair of shorts. You don't want to, because you are wet during the whole Otter, basically, you don't want to start chafing in the middle of Otter with 20 Ks to go. So I would definitely recommend a good pair of shorts that you have run in before and trained on similar terrain. And no, you will not start chafing halfway into it.
Okay, I'm going to add to that. If you don't have a good pair of shorts, just rather prevention is better than cure. So a very good piece of anti-chafe or a very good brand of anti-chafe is definitely necessary. So yeah, we just use the Biogen's anti-chafe, and it's really there's a lot of spaces that you can chafe. I think we all know the human body, so I think it's safe to say that you need to protect yourself, especially with a race like the Otter. Okay, cool. Now I think that was round number 1 done. Thanks to all the speakers. Let's quickly move to round number 2. Okay, for Toni, I'm going to ask, what food do you recommend for someone doing double your time? Example, 8 hours during the race. Toni.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the very like cliche saying of do what works for you, because there's no magic pill solution for this. You really have to test your nutrition beforehand. So that's like the first thing to do is test what works for you. Secondly, for me, I tend to use nutritional supplements. So I don't take whole foods generally. If I do, it'll be things like dates. Dates is probably the most like whole foodie type thing, maybe like a date bar. But I found recently, especially when you're pushing intensity, when you kind of like really running hard, you don't really feel like chewing. And often that stuff can be quite sweet and sickly. So I think find something that maybe has a little bit of salt to it. I've been experimenting with spring nutrition. So that is more whole food, but not as like sickly sweet. For someone who's going to be spending a little bit more time out there, I mean, if you're happy to carry the weight, salty potatoes, that's something that a lot of people really enjoy. Salty potatoes with maybe a little bit of butter or olive oil. Things like trail mix, fruitcake. Fruitcake is a really good one because it's super high in calories and super nice to eat. It's tasty, and you don't have to take a huge like loaf of it. You can take small chunks and it'll still be a really good option. Other things, peanuts and raisins, if you like that kind of thing, also nice high calorie density for not super heavy. Really, I think you can eat pretty much anything. Aim for higher calorie density. Obviously, you don't want to be carrying around like 500 grams of potatoes in your bag. So aim for something that's got a high density of calories, but is super palatable to you. Remember, you're going to be pushing really hard. So things that you normally can eat on maybe like a longer training run could not work on the day. So make sure that you do taste your food on some higher intensity runs as well. Like Johardt was saying, a good run would be like some hill repeats and then doing a threshold afterwards, and trying to stomach something in between that is maybe a good test on for whatever you try on the day. I hope that helps.
Okay, Toni. Next up is Christiaan, and we're going to ask, what would you do if your race starts falling apart? You get a niggle, or you don't feel well, or it's simply not your day. How would you adjust?
I think the fruitcake with brandy will help to sort out the niggle. I just saw it on my screen. I can't help to comment on that. Anyway, on a different note, some point in your racing career, your race, maybe not this one, it's going to feel like everything's falling apart. It happened to me before. That's why I have a number 3 on my side here, not a number 1. Johardt's currently holding number 1 for the last 2 years. So yeah, it's when my race falls apart, I just try and focus on the positive things. I try to focus on the environment. I try to focus on other people to draw energy from them. So if I feel bad, I would try and motivate other people, and then sometimes you feel better. So I make small chats with the marshals. I try and take the focus away from whatever's a big issue in my mind. The one thing is, you've came this far, you've worked hard to get to the race, you've trained, just don't stop, don't put out. You can deal with, pick up the pieces afterwards. It's worth pushing through, although it's not what your doctor would have said. But if it's not something like chest pain, just keep on going.
Okay, thanks for that advice, Christiaan. Next up is Sunét. We are going to ask, what is the minimum amount of training I have to do to complete this race?
Yeah. So guys, just before I answer that, so I really honestly thought that, because I hiked in Otter as a kid a lot, because we go there a lot. So when I got asked to run this thing, I thought we were going to run for 5 days and they were going to bring my bag. So I was ready for 13 a day. And about 10 months before the actual race, I realized I'm in so much trouble. Then I phoned Landie. So I gave Landie about 10 months to solve this big mess. So then we were doing about 60, 70 Ks a week at the end, yeah, closer to the end of it, if I remember it correctly. Yeah.
I also remember something like that. But I think the most important thing, if I can just add there, Sunét, is, I think you literally have to build up. If you're a newbie, you literally start building up from 20 Ks a week. If you're at that level, then you really take the 10% rule and you actually just build yourself up to about 40, 50, 60 Ks a week. And in your highest mileage week, you will be doing between 60 and 70 Ks. And that should really get you to actually be able to complete your first Otter. But as I say, that's just a couple of weeks. And the rest of the time, you're probably going to hover here in the 40s or so. Okay, next up is for Johardt. How much strength training do you do?
Good question, Landie. So I've used to neglect a lot of training in preseason. I can just a personal story from my side is in 2019 I did a lot more strength training. I would say at least 2 to 3 times a week. And then in 2020, I actually neglected some of my strength training. Was running a lot and actually not doing so much strength training, and I could definitely feel it. In the end, the last 5 or 10 Ks, I fell apart a little bit, and so I would definitely say I'm trying to stay consistent on 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week. There's that old saying that it's more important to race more consistently than to do more less consistently. So short little sessions of half an hour a week, half an hour a day, for 2 to 3 times a week, rather than long sessions of hour to an hour and a half only once or twice a month. So I would say definitely focus on leg strength, focus on your core strength, obviously, and yeah, just keep it simple. Don't do anything too complicated. To remember, strength training should always complement your running, and it should not sacrifice you shouldn't sacrifice your speed training and your running for the strength. It's only an add-on, if I can say it like that.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Johardt, for that input. Okay, and then my question was your training that you need to do in the last month, and what is the most important? So I think, the last 4 weeks leading up to the race, I would generally say that quality is definitely more important than quantity. So you want to start bringing your weekly mileage down. So if you were at 100%, I would say before the race, you would start working it down from about 90 to 80%. 3 weeks, you would go to 80 to 70. And then 2 weeks before the race, you would probably do about 60% of your mileage, and then the week before the race is your taper week, and that will be about 50% of the general mileage that you have been doing leading the last 3 to 4 months up to the race. I think the most important thing there is to start toning down on the strength sessions that Johardt was mentioning. So definitely go into, if you were doing 2 or 3 strength training sessions a week, start toning them down to about 1, because those sessions can really stay in your body a long time. And again, the same with the speed and the hill and the stair sessions. If they were long sessions, you are going to start really just reducing the length of the sessions, and also your back-to-back long runs are going to get shorter, because you don't want that sort of fatigue to be set into your muscles. And I think the most important thing is also to focus on good sleep, good nutrition, because that's really going to make a difference. You don't want to compromise your immunity and then having to struggle with getting colds and all sorts of things that will just make you even more nervous before race day. So I think really focus on getting good sleep, rather if you have to choose between, an hour sleep or a half an hour extra training session. I think in the last month, it's really important to rather focus on sleep and nutrition. Okay, then there was a general question that said, I think everyone wants to hear the answers from our speakers to these ones, but should I be walking or running the stairs? Let's hear it from the guys.
Who's going first?
Walking or running the stairs?
It's so tricky. It depends on how fit you are. It depends on how prepared you are. I think, it depends. I try and run them. I definitely don't run them. Also, don't fool yourself to think that we do. I definitely don't. So yeah, take it in your stride, run when you can, walk when you need to. Don't feel like you have to run the stairs. Rather take the time to catch a breath, look around, admire where you are. That's what I do.
Cool. Okay, Johardt?
Like Toni said, we try to run them all. I think in 2019, I ran all of them except the last 2 hills. I couldn't run anymore. So it's an interesting balance. There's runners that's known to be better uphill runners than downhillers. So I'm one of them. I do enjoy the uphills, and I think my downhill lacks a bit. But it is something that I'm definitely considering trying to more hike uphills and spare myself for later in the race and run the downhills a bit harder. I think it depends on person to person whether you should run or walk them. I think you must just go obviously within yourself and where you are comfortable with. But I think for most of the field, it's better to just power hike them, hands on knees, and just hike through them.
Christiaan.
Yeah, unless you are breaking records like Johardt or Toni, I would advise to rather walk them. I usually walk the stairs, and it worked out fine for me. I learned that from Mark Launstein. He used to walk it, and then he would sit on hills, and he also broke sub 4. So if he can break sub 4 by walking most of the stairs, then you can walk for the rest of the audience. It's fine.
Okay, I think that's a good piece of advice. Lastly, from my side, I would like to add on to what the rest of the people said. I think it depends also on you as a runner, whether your strength is uphill or downhill. Then I would definitely make sure that I run at least the easier stairs, because there's obviously different levels of stairs at the Otter. So the easiest stairs, I would then really run at a slow heart rate, or just try not to spike your heart rate too high. I mean, obviously the steep stairs, there you just power hike with hands on knees. But yeah, it definitely also depends, but make use of the sections that are runnable, run those. It's no use in running the stairs, but then you actually have to start walking on the runnable sections, or the sections that are much faster, especially the downhills and so on. So really just pace yourself throughout the run, and make sure that if you are running the stairs, that you can run the rest of the sections as well. But I think the best advice is for most of the field to power hike the high stairs. Okay, awesome. Next up is round 3. And that is our last official round of questions. And then if there's time, we'll answer a few last minute questions, but let's get cracking. Okay, Toni, your question was, what tips can you give us to go plant-based, and did it really make a change?
Okay, so if anyone didn't know, I am fully plant-based, so no animal products. For me, the transition was extremely gradual. I cut out most meats over a period of 2 years, and then I cut out dairy and eggs at the beginning of last year. In terms of making a difference, it's really hard to say because the change was really gradual, and by the time I'd started running, I was already fully plant-based. So I never really felt the change from one dietary plan to another, I guess. I think if you are wanting to experiment, I would say the best way to do it would be to do it gradually. So cut out things like, cut out the red meats or the animal products that you can get rid of easily without too much stress first, and then kind of work towards adding in more plant-based meals every day. It's a tricky one because, yeah, like I said, I was already plant-based by the time I'd started running. So I never really felt the difference. I feel like plant-based is great. You're getting so much nutritional density in your meals because you have to. But yeah, the plant-based, you have to be very conscious about meals, making sure that you're including lots of beans, legumes, soya products, tofu, tempeh. We're really lucky now that, especially in Cape Town, there are so many alternative options to all the classic meat options. So it's pretty easy to substitute, and it's pretty easy to get a solid dose of protein in, which I know everyone, or it's like the first question you always get asked, where do you get your protein from? But it's pretty easy. And if you are concerned, there are so many good vegan protein powders that you can supplement your diet with as well. So I normally add in, if I feel like I need some protein powder into my morning porridge, or if I have a smoothie, I'll add it into that. But I often don't. I often don't feel like I need to. But yeah, the key with plant-based diet is do start slowly. You don't need to cut out everything all at once. Cut out what you can, and then substituting things. So maybe if you're having like a Balti butter chicken, replace the chicken with butter beans or aubergines or things like that, and then having rice with that. And so it's a nice complete meal. Yeah, there's easy substitutes to make. Yeah, I don't know if that was entirely helpful. It's a bit of a tricky question to squeeze into 90 seconds. So if you have any further questions, I will happily answer them in the chat.
Cool, thanks, Toni. Yeah, always when it comes to nutrition, it's definitely hard to answer it on a short level. So thanks for your insight. I think it definitely gave us some more options. Okay, Christiaan, what pace to do when I plan to run at, and please give an overall general strategy on the race. For instance, the different sections, etc.
Hi guys, so if you go and do a calculation of if you're going to run sub 6 hour Otter, you're probably going to run about 8 minutes a K. The winners in a just over 4 hours run over 6 minutes a K. So it's not a fast race, but there's a reason for that. It's so technical. It's so difficult to get over those rocky terrains quickly. So the way I use my strategy is to look at my heart rate. That's the only indicator that you can tell whether you're going too hard or too slow. So use your heart rate indication to keep yourself back, rather pace yourself in the beginning. Remember, if you're not going to win the race, you're not in there for the prize money, why overdo it and then regret later? So start comfortably, start conservative, run at junior one, keep your heart rate below your lactic threshold. So do the calculation. You've got time to do it. Go see your buyer, go chat to your coach, know what it is. I usually try and keep my heart rate below 165, whatever. I run on feeling nowadays, but I used to keep my heart rate below that point where I know I create lactate and I regret it later. So that's my advice to how you should pace yourself over the race. Remember that last 8K, like Johardt said, that's where you really want to have the legs. And if you overtake guys in the end of the race, you feel better about yourself. But if you get overtaken, you feel crappy.
True story. Thanks, Christiaan. Okay, next up, Sunét. There was a question on river crossings. Yeah, for a nervous first timer.
My advice would be make sure there's a group in front of you so you can rest. No, I'm joking. So I'm assuming I loved it, but I'm not scared of heights. So I'm assuming if you're nervous about it, you might be a little bit scared of it. So it's the wrong thing to say, like, get your ass in there. But what I can tell you is the humans that were there that helps you, like chat you through the entire thing. They do it to each runner separately. Like you feel super safe. They watch you the entire time. And like you between trail runners, it's not like someone's going to tell you, oh, great, dude, are you having a picnic? You know, like everyone's cool and just chilling out until you're done. What was a little bit weird is just like, it's not the South Coast. So when you hit that water, it is cold. So you do get a little bit of a fright when you land, but there's a rope like loosely next to you. You grab it, breathe, and pull yourself across. So yeah, for me, it wasn't a big deal, but I like if you're scared of heights, I can imagine that you're a little bit scared, but there's no reason to make it weirder in your head than it needs to be. It was so much fun.
Okay, I think that solves that problem for us. Okay, and next up, Johardt had the question that shoes and socks. What is the best type for quick drying?
That's a very difficult question. No, I usually prefer very thin socks. In my previous year, I've always used very thin socks that obviously will still not give me any blisters. But I just found when I go through water, I just want as little as little as possible water and that it dry as quick as possible. A funny story is 2 years ago when I ran the best of 20 to 30 Ks with Kane Riley, and I remember running just behind him, and he had a big hole in his sock, and I could immediately see his Achilles starting to bleed because of that, because of the constant chafing against his Achilles, and we actually had a good laugh about it after the race. So that it just shows you if you choose the wrong pair of socks, it can come and bite you. And then in terms of shoes, there is shoes on the market that can drain very well. Obviously, these shoes are sometimes a bit, they use a more drainage material. So these shoes I found that these shoes that drains really well are not so well protected in terms of comfort when you go long. So you have to make that trade-off between, do you want a bit more comfort, but obviously you're going to have more materials in your shoes, or are you going to lighter so that it drains well, but it's going to offer a bit less protection to your legs in the longer run. So then what Toni just said in one of her previous questions, it's very important that you obviously trust your shoes. You go over a lot of technical terrain and you step on a lot of wet rocks with your wet shoes, so you obviously need traction there. So I think everyone's got their own personal brand that they trust and they want to use. So I just my advice will be just go and train on similar terrain with it and make sure you've got good grip on wet rocks, if that answer the question.
Definitely, and I think it's yeah, it sounds like Kane had the nothing new on race day socks that he used, probably the oldest one in his closet. So never do that as well. Learn from the pros. Okay, cool. Then the question I had is, how much water should I take if I'm running for 8 hours? I think that's also a very good question, a very personal one, I would say, because obviously some of us are camels and some of us are a bit heavier on water. So my advice there is to also make sure that where you can fill up on water, because the Otter only has one official aid station or water station, and that's at the halfway mark. So make sure that you do take sufficient water to get you to the halfway mark, especially the first part of the race. If I remember correctly, there is taps at the different huts, but it is a little bit off route, so you don't always want to go searching for the taps. That will just waste unnecessary time. So I would recommend like 400 to 800 mils of water per hour. So that's roughly between 4 to 6 liters of water that you will need for the entire race. But if you substitute your water, or not substitute, but if you add some electrolytes to your water, you can definitely get away with a little bit less fluids, and that will also help you to get in the necessary potassium and sodiums and all those kinds of things that you need to. And some of it can actually also, if you add carbs and that sort of thing, it can add calories to your run as well. So make sure that you definitely stock up enough. And if you want to take your electrolyte tablets with you, then that's also very light and easy to quickly just put into your water, and that will add to the fluids that you need for the entire run. But it's obviously up to you how much you need. I always say drink to thirst, so don't overhydrate, but also don't underhydrate. So there's a fine balance, and that you will actually sort of find out and fine tune with your simulation training runs that you do leading up to the race. Okay, then there was a general question for all of us, that's how do you get yourself to fall asleep the night before a big race? I think that's definitely another trick question, but let's see if we can get some insights from you guys. Johardt, you're
Landie, you're putting me on the spot here. So in terms of sleeping, obviously there's always that pre-race nerves. So what I would definitely recommend is try to get as little as possible sleep in the week beforehand, so you will sleep as like a baby on the night before. Just kidding. What I usually try to do is just calm myself and just listen to some music. I'm actually a lot of people might not know this, but I'm actually a bit of a classical music fan. So I will listen to some very mellow music and just try to keep myself calm. And yeah, usually I don't sleep too badly before a race. But yeah, I think it depends on person to person. I just try and stick to my ritual of trying to go to bed and just try to stay off social media the night before. I think that's very important. Otherwise, the pre-race nerves can really get to you. Try and get off your social media and try to limit your screen time the night before.
Cool. I'll follow on from that. To be honest, I generally don't struggle to fall asleep. In general, I'm pretty lucky in that way. But pre-race, depending on how nervous I am, I can sometimes struggle. It's gonna sound so lame, but I actually just watch series. I try and keep my mind, like Johardt was saying, staying off social media, because often that can kind of psych you out a little bit if you, I don't know, you watching previous otters, or if you scrolling social media and people are sending you wishes of good luck. It's all meant really well, but it can put a lot of pressure on. So trying to detach yourself from that, and maybe distract yourself a little bit with, I don't know, your favorite movie or a series or a book. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I generally try and make my routine as normal as possible. Don't change anything. Yeah, keep it simple.
So my tip for parents, and Landie maybe doesn't know this, but to just dip the dummies in some brandy the night before, and then when the kids sleep well, you sleep well. But no, honestly, there is the pre-race nerves, and you can't always deal with it. So I tend to choose 2 nights before, and that's the important night that you need to have a good sleep. I can still deal with a lack of sleep the night before a race, but I find 2 nights before is the one that really makes a difference.
Sunét?
No, guys, it's definitely not the same for me as for you, right? Because like there's no livelihood for all record breaking whatever. So it's like in context, just go to bed. It's going to be a job tomorrow. So it's not really the same for me as for you guys.
Yeah, I think I can just add by saying that the most important thing is not to do any last minute faffing. I think if you do last minute faffing, then you start to get nervous. So I think the better you plan your week, the better you are going to have everything sorted by the last night. I also believe, like Christiaan, 2 nights before is the most important sleep. So the night before, I literally just have my little herbal or chamomile tea, and I take my magnesium tablets or whatever, and I just go to bed and try and forget about what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think, also all of the above that the others mentioned, no social media, and just focus on just staying relaxed and doing whatever relaxes you. Okay, I think we have about 2 or 3 minutes left. So let's quickly try and answer some questions, because as I mentioned, there was an overwhelming amount of questions. So we're trying our very, very best to get to all of them. But an hour goes by very quickly if you speak to all of these legends that we have online. So let's do some last minute questions and see what we can fit into some questions on the chat screen as well, and see. But the point of not being able to run is, how did you cover withdrawal?
Yes, actually a couple times. At the beginning of this year, one of the examples, I was cycling a lot, because I don't even know what, but I had a pain in my calf that just really I couldn't run on. It was just too sore. So I was doing a lot of cycling, a lot of strength training, a lot of Pilates. It was very frustrating because it would be a couple of days of feeling great and I could run again, and then I was back on the bicycle in too much pain to even walk. So it was a very frustrating time. But I think the most important thing is to know that you will get through it. You will recover if you do your rehab and you do the Pilates and the cross training, and you focus on the strength training that maybe you had neglected before, because it all stems from some sort of imbalance. I think working with a physio that you trust, who looks at you as an entire athlete and not only just treats this problem, I think that's really important. Mentally, it's really tough, and I know that. I know firsthand, I promise. But yeah, I think focus on the fact that it will get better. You will be running again eventually, And when you do get better and you are able to run, all the work that you put in to get better really does improve you as an athlete going forward. So don't get disheartened. Yeah, focus on what you can do, find joy in just moving in whatever way you can, because there's a beauty in being able to explore another part of you that you maybe didn't know previously. So I got really into cycling at the beginning of the year, and I realized I actually really enjoy it. So yeah, find something that you enjoy doing other than running to keep you sane. And yeah, know that you will get better and you will come out stronger from it.
Very, very good advice. Okay, Christiaan, is there cut-off time during the race, and where is that?
Yes, there is, and I didn't know about it, of course, but I found out about it. I had a client who was training for Otter, and she could definitely finish it, but we planned that it was for the race. So it was 8-hour race. So if you chart so that you build in some fat for anything that's going to go wrong. There is cutoffs at most of the aid stations where there's exit route. So they, I mean, if the remoteness of the route, they have to control it in that way. But I mean, there's still enough time that you don't have to run for cutoffs. You can still train and make sure you stay well ahead of cutoffs.
Okay, thanks, Christiaan. Next up, last questions for Johardt, myself, and Sunét is Johardt, what to eat the night before a race and on the morning of the race?
Also, it depends on person to person. I usually prefer pasta the night before. I think it's important to note that don't overeat yourself the night before. Rather eat that week if you want to build up your energy stores a bit, build up over that week, especially the last 2 or 3 days, but don't leave it all for the last night's dinner. So usually for me, my go-to is pasta, and then in the morning, my wife knows I can't wake up without a cup of coffee, and it's no different on race morning. So I would usually drink coffee, and then for me, 2 boiled eggs. I like 2 boiled eggs, a little bit of oats, and 1 banana. That usually will get me ready for the day. It's not too much, but it gives me a nice balance of proteins and carbohydrates for the day. Obviously, don't overeat, but make sure you eat. I usually found that if I don't eat breakfast, I don't race well.
Yeah, that's definitely, if you don't load those carbo or those glycogen stores, then you are going to run on empty. Okay, the question I had was, what can you do to get going again if you bonk at 30 kilometers? Okay, firstly, I would recommend not to bonk. Okay, so I think that's the key thing here is to rather prepare that you actually take in enough nutrition, start eating from the first hour, because I think a lot of people who run their first Otters only start eating when they get hungry. And that's really a serious platform for actually bonking, is if you only start eating in hour 4 or 5, you will definitely have bonked by then. So I think the most important thing is to start eating from the first hour. Make sure that you take your nutrition over the course of the race. Don't all try and squeeze it in the first half of the race or in the last half of the race. So eating consistently and making sure that you get about 160 to 200 calories in per hour. That normally works for everyone. So if you do manage to somehow bonk, I think the main thing is to just sort of regroup and tell yourself the reason that you bonked is basically because you were running out of fuel and your tank is empty. So you need to obviously try and get some energy and some calories into your body, whether it's via fluids, some carbohydrate drink, or some calories through nutrition. but the main thing is you need to get going again. So I think try and get some calories into your body. Okay, then the last question was for Sunét. How hectic is the start of the classic route, starting at the single track and the technical side?
Yeah, it's you're jumping. You're a little bit of like, yeah. All the. Are you speaking about the boulder rocking, Landie? Those rocks in the beginning.
Yes, yeah, I think.
Yeah, I did it the other way around. So I ended there, which was horrible. I wanted to bribe the lady to do it for me. She didn't want to. So I suppose it's better if you start with it, because at least there's power in your legs left. So with all the guys speaking about the strength training and stuff, I reckon that's why. Because you can't run. You're hopping from one thing to the next thing, and you're just checking where you landed. So that piece was a little bit difficult for me, but I also think it was right at the end. So I've had it at that stage. Starting with it might be different.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I think the main is to make sure that you actually have into a good position in the prologue, because the prologue obviously determines where you will be starting your Otter run. So if you get yourself into a very slow prologue, you are going to get stuck behind people that are slower than you. So make sure that you run your prologue according to what you want to run your race with, because then you won't get stuck behind people that are slower than you. And obviously the boulder hopping is quite technical. It is the most technical section of the race, but you are on fresh. So I think that is definitely a positive on the Otter side. Okay, guys, I think that is all we have time for tonight. But I want to just say thank you to each and everyone for joining us tonight. I really hope it was insightful, valuable, that you've learned something new, and that you really enjoyed your evening with us. We really enjoyed speaking to you and sharing our experience over the last couple of years. And I just want to thank Craig from Emperor Asset Management. I want to thank Sunét, Johardt, Toni, and Christiaan for joining us. And thanks to each and everyone here tonight. And we hope to see you all at the Otter race. Good luck with the last couple of months of training. There's about, I think it's 8 weeks left or 9 weeks left to the Otter. So make the most of the training in the next 8 weeks. I think it's crucial what you do now in the next 4 weeks, especially. So get going, get excited. You are going to do one of the most beautiful races on the planet. So yeah, feel very, very privileged if you've got an entry to this race. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your Wednesday night and the rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.